Hello. We got the video for lesson number 3 talking about distance on a number line. So first thing is, well, what is distance? Distance is how far apart two numbers are. So if you look here at this example, we want to know what's the distance between -5 and 2, although I covered up 2. So -5 and 2. So here I have a dot at -5 and one at 2. So if I start at -5, I'd have to move up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 total spaces, which is why the distance between those 2 points is 7 units. Alright, we got our first problem. So we're given this number line, and part A wants to know what is the distance from point B to point A. Okay, well, point A is at -3 and point B is at 2. Okay, so if I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it is 5 units away. Now, one thing to note is distance is always positive. Okay, so distance is always positive. So we want to choose +5. Distance is always going to be positive. And part B is asking us, is the distance from point A to point B different from the distance from point B to point A? How do you know? Well, I am going to say no. The distance, wait, sorry. Let me reread the question. No, the distance is the same. And let's see which one it is. The distance is a measurement of space between two numbers, and it can be positive or negative. In this case, it is positive. No, the distance is the same. Distance is a measurement of space between two numbers, and its sign depends on which point you begin from counting. See. So what we want to pick here, I think I accidentally chose the wrong one. I did. Sorry guys, this is typo on my part. So it's the distance is a measurement of the space between two numbers. Yes. This part over here should say that it's always a positive value. Okay, so it's always a positive value. Okay, because distance is always positive. Sorry about that. So that's the option that you'd want to pick. This is a workbook question. Alright, so next one, here we have a vertical number line, and we're asked a few questions. Let's see, so we want to know which answer correctly finds the distance between points A and points B. And we have a few different options. The first one says each space on the number line represents 1 unit. Well, if I look here, if I go from 0 to the next little tick mark, it's at 1/3. So it's definitely not 1 unit apart, so it's not that one. Each space on the number line represents a distance of 1/3. That's true, right? Because if I go up here, that's 1/3, 2/3, and so on. And there are 5 spaces from A to B. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Also true. So 1/3 times 5 is 1 and 2/3, so the distance is 1 and 2/3. That to me sounds pretty good. The reason why this one down here is not correct is because, again, this distance is negative. Remember, you cannot have a negative distance. Your distance should always be positive. Right, finding distance between 2 points. This is the official formula that you want to be using. Okay, and it is A minus B, and the bars around it represent absolute value. Remember that the absolute value of any number makes it positive. So if I were to have the absolute value of -7, it's +7. If I were to have the absolute value of -0.5, it's +0.5. If I were to have the absolute value of 6, 6 is already positive, so it's just 6. Okay, so absolute value is always makes the number positive. So if we have a distance between -2 and 9, let's say A is -2 because it comes first, and B is 9. So if I were to take -2 minus 9, now if you didn't know this, on those Desmos calculators that I always use, this right here this button is the absolute value. So if I click that and type in -2 minus 9 and hit enter, see how it has the bars around it? It will tell me my answer is positive 11. So the answer here is positive 11. Now I want to try this in one other way with the numbers flipped. So let's say now that A is 9 and B is -2. For this reason, this minus sign in between them does not count as this negative, meaning when I substitute A in for 9, like this 9 minus, you need to have a -2 written like this. If you don't do it this way, you will not get the same answer. So we need to have 9 minus a -2, which gives me that 11. Okay, so the minus sign in between them is subtraction. If the second number that you want to write after that subtraction sign is negative, you need to make sure that you have the minus sign with it. Okay? Alright, here's our first example. Naomi wants to calculate the distance between these 2 points using an absolute value. She does the following work. So she has 3 2/3 minus 4 over 5, and she gets this fraction and says that is the distance. Remember that our distance formula is A minus B. Okay, so she had A being 3 2/5. B is -4 over 5. So if I have 3 2/5 minus, remember this negative is separate from that subtraction sign. My actual distance formula should look like this, which means that she is incorrect. So it can't be this one. It says she did not set up her original absolute value expression correctly. Because she did not. She forgot that extra negative, and because she forgot that extra negative, that is why she made her mistake. And part B is asking us what is the actual distance between these two values. Let's figure that out. So I have 3 2/5, and we are subtracting a -4 over 5. It says 4.2, which is 25 over 1, sorry, 21 over 5, which is also 4 1/5. And again, to figure out B, all I did was type this here into my calculator. Whoops. Miguel, talking about Miguel now. So Miguel is a professional baseball player. He wants to compare his batting average from game 1 of the season to game 15. And we have this number line that represents his batting averages. So it looks like on game 1, his batting average was a bit higher because this number is bigger than this number. Part A is asking us what is the distance between Miguel's game in game 1 and game 5. So remember, for distance, we're going to do A minus B in those absolute value signs. So let's have this be A and this be B. I have 0.25 minus 0.325. Okay, now again, I'm going to use that Desmos calculator. Hit the absolute value of 0.25 minus 0.325. And it tells me it is 0.075. So this right here, this is our distance for part A. Part B is asking us a little bit of a different question. So part B is saying, what is the change in Miguel's game from game 1 to game 15? So since Miguel's batting average in game 1 to game 5 went down, it decreased. That means I should expect my answer to be negative because he's decreasing. So if he starts at a 0.25 or 0.325 and he ends at a 0.25, he's decreasing, right? But we want to figure out how much he decreased by. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that same exact expression, but instead I'm just going to get rid of my absolute value signs. So 0.25 minus 0.325, which tells me it is negative 0.75. Now, if you think about it, this makes sense because, well, if the distance between these 2 points is 0.075, right, my distance is positive, and if he started at a higher score and he's ending at a lower score, I would expect it to be the same number because it's still the same amount of distance, but now we're talking about change. And since he has decreased in his batting average, that's why our answer here is negative. All right. That is all I have for lesson 3. So if you still need some extra help or are stuck on a checkpoint question or need anything, let me know. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.